Welcome back to the Plus Money Podcast, your home for the best soccer bets in 15 minutes or less. I'm Andrew Passaro. The EPL has almost run its course, and we have 3 match weekends left. There's big things to watch all over the table. Can Arsenal keep up? Is there a chance of a Manchester City wobble? Can Burnley or Luton pull themselves out of the relegation race? We got bets on all of it today. I want to quickly mention we are excited to be on goals.tv, excited to have our show on a platform. If you're new here, welcome to the party. We're betting on all of it. We got the best soccer bets in 15 minutes or less. You can follow me at Andrew Passaro on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow the show at the Plus Money Pod. Let's get into it. It's a loaded weekend in England. I've got some picks from Germany and on the continent. We're going to start bright and early, Saturday morning. Arsenal, they're taking on Bournemouth. I really like both teams to score in this one at minus 132. Arsenal's defense has been very stout at home, but this Bournemouth team, after the first 10 games of the season, has been one of the best teams in the league, one of the best teams in the land. They've really figured things out. I think they can go to Arsenal and give them a hard time. Both teams to score being at minus 132 is an absolute playable number. Additionally, if you want to take Arsenal and both teams to score plus 125, I'm not going to say that's a bad choice. I love that play. We're going to jump to Burnley. They're taking on Newcastle, the immovable force versus the unstoppable object. You've got Burnley trying to dig themselves out of a relegation race. You've got Newcastle who are trying to lock up a top 6 Europa spot after a disappointing year in Europe. I like Newcastle money line here. I think they're going to be too much for Burnley. I know Burnley have been playing better of late, but I think this is just one that's too much. I do think there will be goals in this one. We'll get back to that. We're jumping to Sheffield United taking on Nottingham Forest. Sheffield are done for the season. If you've been watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, you know that I have a ticket on Sheffield to finish bottom, and I need a Nottingham Forest result here. Sheffield have given up 4 goals or more in their last 3 Premier League matches, so I really like Forest in over 2.5 at plus 120. Forest are in a precarious spot right now. They're outside of the bottom 3, but they're not safe yet. They definitely could go down still. So I think this is going to be a big opportunity for Forest to look at a game against the bottom tide that they have to take points against. Additionally, we've seen Sheffield. I know you're going to say Forest aren't great. Sheffield, in their last few games, have had run-ins against Burnley, against Luton, against some of the other teams near the bottom of the table, and they've lost all of it. This was a diabolical season for Sheffield. I think they are going to finish bottom, and I think Forest are going to get a result. We talked about 2 out of the 3 10 a.m. games. I've got a parlay across all 3. A 10 a.m., both teams to score parlay at plus 237. I think Burnley can score against Newcastle. Like I said, I think Newcastle will win that game. We were talking about Sheffield and Forest. While I do see Forest winning that game, and there's 3 goals in that game, I think Sheffield are getting one of those goals. And then Brentford are taking on Fulham. I really almost wanted to take Fulham because Brentford, while I think they are safe, I think they're done for the season. But I do think they score. So Burnley versus Newcastle, Sheffield versus Forest, Brentford versus Fulham, both teams to score, plus 237. It's just me today. There's no Ani, so I've got picks for 10 games for you today. Let us jump to Sunday. We've got Aston Villa traveling to Brighton. Aston Villa in a weird spot right now, coming off of a Europa Conference League semifinal where they lost at home to Olympiacos, a game 4-2. It was a very interesting game. Very 2 close onside calls for Olympiacos. They were onside, but just there. I think this is a situation where Aston Villa may have actually played better than the result today. They had Douglas Luiz miss a penalty. They need to go to Brighton and get a result. They need to go to Greece and get a result. I think they can go to Brighton because Brighton are probably on form the worst team in the Premier League right now. Absolutely wrecked with injuries. Villa money line's plus 140. I'm not bold enough to take that because I do think that Brighton are going to do something in this game, and Aston Villa haven't looked at their best of late, but I like the number for Villa draw no bet at minus 125. Then we jump to the big one. It's Liverpool. It's Tottenham. Liverpool clinched a top 4 spot today with Tottenham's loss to Chelsea. It's ironic. We're going to see one last Jurgen Klopp matchup against the top 6 side. His first matchup against the top 6 side was against Tottenham. We're going to the same place that we've been going with Liverpool, and it's Liverpool shots. 21 shots is at minus 125, 22 shots is at plus 105, and 23 shots is at plus 145. Those have hit in their last two games. Frankly, games that Liverpool should have played better in, and I think that they're going to do something big here at home. I also want to show out, because of the narrative of everything else that happened all week. We saw Mo Salah and Jurgen Klopp get into it in the sidelines last week. Mo Salah to score and assist is at plus 300. I think that's playable. I don't know if I'm going to play that yet. I want to wait until see that he starts. But the Liverpool fans need something from Salah in this one. This is you just made the narrative a little bit more about yourself than you should have. And then the reports came out all week that Liverpool are expecting to re-sign Mo Salah. He's not expected to go to Saudi Arabia just yet. So I really think there's a chance that we get one big Salah show on Sunday. And with the way that Tottenham have played, they just kind of look like they're done. They're ready to go. They look burnt out. They look exhausted. They've had a lot of injuries this year. They've had a lot of changes in the squad, a lot to manage in a first year for Ange Postecoglou. And frankly, I had expectations of them finishing in the bottom 10. So in my opinion, he's exceeded the expectations. But when it comes down to who's going to win or lose this game, I kind of can see the draw. I can kind of see Tottenham pulling off something, Liverpool fighting and getting a result. The draw's at plus 450. I'm not going to be investing in that myself because I'm not going to bet on Liverpool to drop points at Anfield. But if I was a neutral, especially with Liverpool clinching top four, maybe Klopp gets experimental, a draw at plus 450 is incredible value. That's going to take us to Monday. And my favorite bets of late have been on one thing, and it's laddering Manchester United or shots in Manchester United games. Crystal Palace are taking on United on Monday Night Football. Palace draw no bet is at minus 126. Palace had 3 wins on the bounce going into their draw against Fulham last weekend. They've been playing really well. United haven't exactly been playing great. They're going to travel down to London. They're trying to finish in a Europa League spot, but I think there's a bunch of guys on this team that are just done trying for Erik ten Hag, and I think Crystal Palace can get a result here at home. The new manager has things clicking. Mateta's in incredible form. Olise's in incredible form. Things are kind of working out the best that they can for Crystal Palace right now. That being said, I think this is another game that has a ton of shots all over the place. We've seen Crystal Palace putting up the numbers themselves. Manchester United have been on the front foot of late as well. 31 in the game is at minus 130. 32 is at minus 105. 33 plus 125, which is a great number. 34 plus 160. And 35 at plus 200 is great because this has been hitting for us. Since we've given this out, we've laddered it all the way up to 35, and it's hit every single time. I think on Monday we're going to see a game that is very back and forth, up and down, a fun game of football for the neutral. Brutal game if you're a United fan. I don't expect them to get a win here. So maybe a draw. If you want to take it down to Palace double chance and put that into a parlay, I think that's sitting at like minus 150, which is playable as a parlay piece. But I'm just going to take Palace draw no bet and see if we can get lucky. Jumping back to a couple other games that I like. Actually, I think we have 3 other games that I like. So I actually lied. I have a secret bonus game here. We're going to Stuttgart taking on Bayern Munich. Stuttgart are plus 105 money line. And you're going to say to me, why would Bayern lose this game? Well, Bayern have a huge clash at the Bernabeu in Madrid for their Champions League after one of the best semifinals I've ever watched as a neutral in the Champions League. Bayern are tied up 2-2. They're going to have to rest players. They're going to have to focus on winning that game because they can't win the Bundesliga. They're not going to win anything unless they win the Champions League this year. And Stuttgart, they're going to lock up a top 4 spot. Top 5's already going to get Champions League, but this is the opportunity for Stuttgart to really put some extra icing on the cake at plus 105 against, like I said, a Bayern team that I think will rotate. I'm going to take Stuttgart there. Italy, Roma taking on Juve. I'm taking both teams to score here, or I'm thinking about taking both teams to score here at minus 106 for the sole purpose of we've just seen it a lot in Juventus games of late. Roma kind of need a result here to try to make any type of run at the top 5. I don't think they're going to get in. They're going to be very close. They lost 2-0 to Bayer Leverkusen in the Europa League today, and I think they're done in Europe. They've had a very nice push on since De Rossi came in. A draw here plus 200 is a really fun number, or a really interesting number, because that's what we've been seeing Juventus do a lot of late. This is going to be an interesting game. I'm curious to see who's going to play for Roma, but I think they can get, both teams can get on the score sheet at minus 106. I love the value there. We're jumping to the USL. I gave out a USL bet a couple weeks ago, and I hit some USL bets last week that I didn't give out publicly. There's two teams I know I can bet on in the USL. It's Louisville and it's Charleston. The Charleston Battery taking on Hartford. Hartford lost 6-0 last weekend to Louisville. I had over 3.5 and over 4.5 goals in that game. And I think you can do the exact same again this week. Pardon me for forgetting to look up the odds. Over 3.5, over 4.5 is the play. If over 2.5 if Charleston team total over 2.5 is a plus number, it's playable. Charleston has scored 24 goals in 9 USL matches. In their last 4 matches, they've gone over 4.5, and they've hit the over 2.5 team total on all 4. The over 3.5 is hitting 5 out of the 9 Charleston matches, and it's hitting 4 out of the 7 Hartford matches in all comps. So, seeing a ton of goals in Charleston games, and frankly, Hartford have a bad back line. I think this one, while I think this could be an absolute beatdown, if the odds are there, it's playable. That's going to wrap it up from us. We'll be back next week. We have 2 more weekends of big games in the Premier League to talk about. The title race is going to be close. The relegation race, I feel like, is going to come down to the last day. And obviously, Champions League semifinals, Europa League semifinals. It's all happening. So make sure you're following us on all our social channels at the Plus Money Pod. Follow myself at Andrew Passaro. I've got picks pretty much every day. I will probably find something for Friday afternoon and tweet about it. So make sure you're following me there. And for those of you who are new, like I said, welcome. It's exciting to be on a new platform. We'll catch you next week. Let's stay positive.